All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the world's largest island. For centuries, people basically thought of it as this frozen, distant frontier. But right now, it has completely transformed into the ultimate geopolitical prize. I'm talking, of course, about the Great Greenland Tug-of-War.
Just take a look at this quote from Donald Trump back in December of 2024. He said, "Ownership and control of Greenland is an absolute necessity." Now, you probably remember those headline-grabbing moments during his first term in 2019 when the US actually proposed buying Greenland. Back then, the Danish Prime Minister called it absurd, and honestly, to a lot of people, it just sounded like a bizarre political joke. But here's the thing, it's not a joke at all. It's actually a symptom of a massive, incredibly serious global shift.
So, it really begs the question, doesn't it? Why is an island with a population of just 57,000 people suddenly so incredibly valuable to the world's biggest superpowers? Well, in this explainer, we're going to peel back the layers of that exact mystery. We are moving way past those sensational headlines to uncover the real, high-stakes reality that's unfolding right out there on the ice. Let's get into Layer 1, the strategic chessboard. To really wrap our heads around the current tension, we have to look back at the history and the military context that makes this place such a crucial asset. Believe it or not, the US actually tried to purchase Greenland way back in the 1860s. But it was World War II that really changed the game, leading to a 1941 defense agreement, mostly because planes just needed a stopping point to reach Europe. Fast forward to the Cold War, and the Thule base, which is now called Patufic, saw a massive expansion. And the reason is literally just geography. If you're looking at a globe, the absolute shortest trajectory for a nuclear missile traveling between the US and Russia goes directly over the Arctic and Greenland. So the US absolutely needed to lock down that strategic position.
Now, fast forward to the 2020s, and we're looking at a rapidly developing new Arctic front. As melting sea ice starts opening up entirely new shipping routes, Russia is stepping up, aggressively reopening its old Soviet-era bases and really expanding its submarine fleet. Meanwhile, China has officially integrated the far north right into its Polar Silk Road initiative to secure its own economic and security footholds. And as you'd expect, in response to all of this, the US is maintaining its strong presence at Pitufic, keeping it as a vital hub for satellite surveillance and their anti-missile shield.
All of this tension has triggered a pretty major reaction from Europe, too. During a recent visit to Greenland's capital, Nuuk, French President Emmanuel Macron delivered what he'd called a very clear message of French and European solidarity. And frankly, European nations are getting a bit worried. With shifting rhetoric from the US about claiming territory, countries like Denmark are really stepping up. They're doing more joint operations and buying European air defense systems, basically aiming to ensure they can maintain international borders totally independent of the US.
Okay, moving on to Layer 2, the mineral El Dorado.
So, if we pivot from military strategy to the massive economic engine driving all this, fueled by the global green energy transition and modern defense tech, it really all comes down to one staggering number: 43. Get this. Out of the 60 minerals that U.S. authorities categorize as absolutely critical to their economy and national security, an estimated 43 of them are sitting right beneath Greenland's surface.
We're talking about incredibly crucial rare earth elements with names like neodymium, praseodymium, dysprosium, and terbium. I know, they're a mouthful, but they are absolutely essential. You literally cannot build electric vehicles or manufacture advanced defense systems without them. And right now, global supply chains are heavily reliant on China, which has recently tightened up its export rules. So for Western nations, looking at Greenland is like looking at a golden ticket to finally break that reliance. But as you might guess, actually extracting this wealth is incredibly complex, and it's causing immense friction on the ground. It's a massive balancing act. On one hand, you've got local environmental opposition to uranium mining, which actually triggered an $11 billion, yes, billion with a B, dollar lawsuit from a foreign mining company. But then, on the very same island, the government is simultaneously approving these new low-uranium critical metal extraction projects because they're just so highly sought after by Western defense sectors.
That brings us to Layer 3, the Greenlandic perspective. Now it's time to zoom in. Let's step away from the global superpowers and the billion-dollar lawsuits and look at the human level. The 57,000 people who actually call this land their home. Listen to this quote from Mira Kleist, a former UN consultant. She says, "We want to be the agents of telling our own story." There's this overwhelming, deep-rooted desire among locals for full independence from Denmark. They want agency. You can feel this very real, palpable frustration at constantly being treated like, just a geopolitical pawn or some empty piece of real estate being haggled over by foreign leaders.
And you have to understand, this drive for self-determination is fueled by a profoundly painful colonial history. Back in the 1960s, the Danish healthcare system administered IUDs to around 4,000 Greenlandic females, some of them as young as 12 years old, and this was done without proper transparency or consent. It was literally a forced contraception campaign designed to drastically decrease the local birth rate. The trauma from that era still resonates so strongly today. It recently prompted an official apology from the Danish Prime Minister, but it completely shapes why Greenland is so determined to control its own destiny now.
But there's a really harsh economic reality standing in the way of that immediate independence. Right now, a whopping 90% of Greenland's exports come from just one single sector, the fishing industry. On top of that, 54% of their entire national budget relies on outside grants, mostly coming from Denmark. So they're in this tough spot where they are economically dependent. To achieve true, lasting independence, they know for a fact that they have to diversify. And this right here creates a massive clash of timelines. The superpowers, they are in a rush. They want quick access, rapid military positioning, and they want to dig up those rare earth metals yesterday. But the Greenlanders, they want controlled, slow development. They want to be the ones at the steering wheel, taking the time to build an educated workforce and basically using their own resources to fund their independence totally on their own terms.
And finally, let's look at the core, Greenland's most valuable asset.
Pivoting away from the military bases, the politics, and the rare earth metals, we finally arrive at the ultimate existential stakes of this whole situation. It's actually perfectly captured in a very powerful Inuit word, siku ngungjitsuk. It's a noun that translates to a sea with no ice. And let me tell you, that concept strikes absolute fear into the hearts of local hunters in Greenland. Because the terrifying reality they're facing right at this very moment is that the Arctic is warming 2 to 4 times faster than the rest of the planet. And here is exactly why that matters to every single one of us watching. 7 meters. Let me be absolutely crystal clear about this. If Greenland's ice sheet comes off the land and melts completely into the ocean, it's going to raise global sea levels by up to 7 meters. That is just staggering.
Which leads us straight to this terrifying number, 500 million. 500 million people globally could be displaced if that ice melts. The economic losses wouldn't just be billions, they would run into the many, many trillions of dollars. We're talking about entire island nations like the Maldives literally sinking beneath the waves.
Geoscientist Paul Byerman really hit the nail on the head when he said the real value of Greenland is its ice, and keeping that ice frozen and on land. Because when you think about it, the true treasure of this massive island isn't real estate. It's definitely not military dominance. It's not even those billions of dollars in rare earth metals. The true value is global environmental stability.
So it all comes down to this. Can the world afford to let Greenland melt? When we step back and look at all the political maneuvering, the military posturing, and this frantic scramble for resources, this is the one question that towers above everything else. Because honestly, if the ice vanishes, none of the rest of it will matter anyway. I really hope this explainer has completely redefined how you think about global security. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll leave you to think on that.